Well, hello everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining our amazing series of Igmena Google Hangouts. I'm really excited and thrilled today to receive amazing speakers and experts with us today. We will speak about the IANA Stewardship Transition to ICANN, and we will think together of the question that if we are heading for a decentralized internet or not. I should say that this hangout is technically challenging, so we have two amazing experts with us, and we hope that Mr. Fahad Batena from ICANN will join us. So I will try to introduce myself for you. My name is Hamza bin Mahrez. I'm the policy analyst lead of the HIVOS Foundation on the, I should say, famous Internet Governance MENA region program. And before giving you the floor to reflect on your academic and professional backgrounds, I will try to share with you two simple logistical instructions. Try to turn off your mobile phone or any connected devices that you have around you to limit the background noise, and try to mute your voice while the other speaker or expert is giving his or her perspective. So without further details, I will give you the floor to introduce yourselves and give us your opinion and or your backgrounds, professional and academic backgrounds. Should we begin by Mr. Tijani Benjama, who came and joined us from Tunisia?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Tijani Benjama. I am an engineer. I am senior engineer, but I am retired now. I am the vice chair of the at-large advisory committee at ICANN, and I think the most important thing that you have to know, because what we will speak about today is ICANN, especially. I can tell you also that I was I participated in all the phases of the WSIS from the first PrepCom of the first phase till the closure of the Tunis phase. I'll give the floor to Hamza because
thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tijani. We are pleased to have you here with us. So we are joined by Mr. Fahad Batena. I hope that he can hear us, and we will go back to Fahad later on. So should we go to Mrs. Wafed Dahmani, who joined us as well from Tunisia?
Yes, thank you, Hamza, for this invitation. I'm very pleased to join you in this very interesting hangout. My name is Wafed Dahmani. I'm a senior engineer and head of Internet resource development in ATI, which is the Tunisian Internet Agency. We have the opportunity to work in the ATI, which is actually in Tunisia in the heart of the Internet governance. So we are deeply involved, and we have also the opportunity to work with the international key actors in the Internet governments, which are ICANN, Afrinic, and we were all the time involved in the global IGFs and regional IGFs. I should add that I'm a member of the multistakeholder, the MAG of our IGF Tunisia. I'm the vice president, and another time I'm happy to join you today.
So we are as well happy to host you here with us, Mrs. Wafesh, and thank you for the introduction. Should we go to Mr. Fahad Batena, who joined us from ICANN? I hope that he can hear us and that we can hear him from.
Okay, thank you, Hamza, and hello everybody.
Oh. Good.
So I apologize for this technical glitch. I'm not sure what's wrong with my laptop, but I couldn't join through my laptop. But I'm joining now through my phone, and I hope it works. So thank you, Hamza, and I'm very pleased to be on this session with both Tijani and Wafa, two very seasoned and experienced folks who have been involved in internet governance even longer than I have, actually. So my name is Fahad Batena. I work for ICANN, which is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. I work as a stakeholder engagement manager covering the Middle East. And the Middle East that actually I cover includes the 22 Arab states, in addition to Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Turkey. Thank you.
Good. Good. Well, thank you very much for all of your introductions. And because we have a very complex and wonky topic today about the IANA Stewardship Transition, please try to explain the list of acronyms that you're using during our interaction for the wider community to understand what are those acronyms and what is the significance of them. I should go back to Fahd Bataina from ICANN and ask him the first question. So what is the IANA function first, and why it has to transit from U.S. government oversight to ICANN, the International Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers?
Okay, Hamza, so the IANA is actually the technical arm of ICANN. So one thing we need to distinct here is that while policies are developed at ICANN, IANA is the technical, is the entity that runs some of the technical infrastructure of the internet. And really here the mandate, whether it's ICANN or IANA, is three things. One is domain names, the other is IP addresses, and the third is protocol parameter. So for example, at the IANA, they are involved in issues related to the technical aspects of the DNS. So let's say a CCTLD or an IDN CCTLD or even a GTLD would like to get delegated or maybe redelegated. They would write their request to the IANA, and they can process these technical aspects through the IANA. Another part the IANA works on is also IP addressing. And of course, IP addressing is not directly shared by the IANA. So let's say an ISP would like to get a block of IP addresses. They would actually not go to the IANA, but rather they would go to their relevant regional internet registry. So for example, in the case of Tunisia, they would go to Afrinic to obtain these IP addresses. But let's say the IANA is the main repository for these IP addresses, and they actually distribute these IP addresses, whether version 4 or version 6, through a certain mechanism they agree upon along with the regional internet registries. The third aspect is protocol parameters, and put it simply here, we have many devices that connect to the internet, and if each device spoke a different language, then these devices will not be able to communicate with one another. So it's really important to have protocols that work across different platforms in a unified manner, such as whatever your vendor is in terms of hardware, these devices can communicate. And of course, when we talk about protocols, this is the work of the Internet Engineering Task Force, but then the IANA does maintain a repository of all the RFCs, which stands for Request for Comments, of these different technical standards. So as you can see, and of course today, I mean, whoever uses the internet will realize that actually the internet really cannot operate without these critical internet resources. So let's imagine an internet without domain names, or let's imagine an internet without IP addresses, or even let's imagine an internet where different devices use different protocols and they cannot actually understand one another. So this is all these technical aspects are actually run and administered by the IANA. So I'm not sure, did you mention a question about the US administration? I apologize, I lost track.
Yeah, so the second part of the question is that why the IANA function has to transit or to go from the U.S. government oversight to ICANN. Why it has to go from U.S. government, from a government entity, to a multi-stakeholder process or foundation like ICANN.
Okay, so ICANN was actually established in 1998, and the main cause behind ICANN was to provide competition to the domain name industry. As some might know, actually, domain names were more or less under the control of Network Solutions before 1998, and it wasn't a very competitive industry. And of course, ICANN's mandate was to make this industry competitive. Now, when ICANN was established, it got the contract to run the IANA by the U.S. Department of Commerce, and actually it was clearly indicated back in 1998, that once ICANN is mature enough, the U.S. government will ask ICANN to initiate a process to actually transition the stewardship of the IANA functions from the U.S. government to a multi-stakeholder body. Of course, fast forwarding to 2014, the US government felt that ICANN was actually mature enough to start such a process, and it handed this task to ICANN. And of course, ICANN initiated a process with the community to come out with a transition proposal. Now, I'll stop here for now. Probably I can share more details on this as we move, and I'd really like to give the floor to my colleagues.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fahd. It's really a deep technical explanation, fantastic explanation. So I will give the floor to Mrs. Wafa, who wants to jump on the second part of the question.
Yes.
And the shift from the US government oversight to ICANN.
Yes, certainly I cannot give a better answer for the first part like Fahd gave, but I want to speak simply about the second part. I want to respond to a simple question: why should we transit the US government oversight of IANA functions? I think that we all know that by the contract between through the contract, NTA has a verification and an authorization role over ICANN on how ICANN it performs its functions. In other words, that the US government, any changes are subject to review by the US government. And we know today that the internet has grown largely and touching now the lives of billions of people in the world, and touching profoundly the life of people. And it's we have to preserve the open and the free flow of this internet, and we can't accept today that the internet is the proprietor of the only of the US government. We have now to have a globalized internet, and we don't accept that this we will not accept it oversight endlessly. That's why we have this transition, that oversight should happen.
Yeah, so you're basically saying that we don't want to see government hegemony on the internet.
Yes, we want to have a global internet.
So the global internet, because it's transnational, and so we need a multi-stakeholder entity to manage and regulate the internet. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm thrilled to hear the perspective of Mr. Tijani on the first question that we tackled, and if you can as well dive into the economic, political, and social consequence of that transition of the IANA transition to ICANN, and what are the potential gains and risks of that transition?
Thank you very much, Hamza. Let me first come back to the history. ICANN was born in 1998. At the same time, there was a decision to hold a World Summit on Information Society. During this summit, most of people didn't agree about the internet governance as it is now. Means they didn't agree with ICANN to be an American company, more or less. There was a lot of fights, and to give you an idea, in the first phase, this issue couldn't be addressed because the difference and the antagonism was very big, and we couldn't reach any agreement. So it was postponed to the second phase. And in Tunis, and before Tunis, there was the WIG, which is the working group on internet governance. And this group worked to give perspectives. It was multi-stakeholder, and the WIG gave three possible solutions that couldn't be agreed on at the end. At the end, they found the governments, because it was the summit is the summit of states and governments. We were working there. We were participating as observers. As you know, the multi-stakeholder model started there. We were given the possibility to give our point of view, but we didn't decide. Anyway, at the end, the solution that was found is to create the Internet Governance Forum with the conditions that you know. So the problem was from the beginning. most of the countries in the world and most of the community didn't understand how a global network is governed by a single government. The GPA at the beginning, ICANN had an agreement with the government of US called the GPA Joint. I forget and the GPA was replaced
Joint
by the
Project
AOC.
Agreement.
Yes, exactly, and it was replaced by the affirmation of commitment, and on those in those contracts. The intention from the beginning was to transition the stewardship to the community. But when nobody know, you will ask me why now the NTIA, the National Telecommunication and Information Administration, which is part of the Department of Commerce of US government, why the NTIA decided in 2014 to transition the stewardship of the IANA functions. I think that it was planned to be done, but what make it done now was the Snowden declaration, Snowden revelation, because Snowden made the trust in the US government very, very bad, even from their allies. And I think that this issue, this event, made the US government decide very fast to transition the stewardship on the IANA functions, and that's why perhaps we have it now. But at the end, I would say that in any case, the transition is very benefit for all of us. It is benefit because it has a lot of benefits, because it will give the community the possibility to be more, to have enhanced IANA and ICANN, because with the IANA transition there will be a new accountability measures, new accountability mechanisms that make ICANN accountable to the community. So now we will have something which is more driven by community, and I think this is a very good thing.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Tijani, for the history that you gave us. I think, and I was looking for the Snowden arguments, but you come up with the Snowden argument, which is great. So the second question, I will go back to Mr. Fahad. So, if the IANA transition happens and it's successful, what are what is the driver of that IANA transition for more economic, political, and social freedoms in the context of the MENA region, and what are the potential risks and concerns of that IANA transition to ICANN?
Okay, Hamza. So let's be clear on one thing. Now, the transition is more or less switching of hands. At the moment, the IANA functions actually are administered by the US government, but they are run by ICANN through a contract. Now, there could be a new model, and the administrator could be a new entity, and who knows, maybe ICANN will no longer run the IANA functions. However, the functions themselves should actually maintain the security, stability, and resiliency.
Fahad? Have we lost Fahad? Have we lost Fahad?
I think yes. So Hamza, what is?
So I will go to Ms. Wafaa and ask you the same question that I asked for that. So what is the is that IANA transition thing? Is it good for more prosperous economic and social and political freedoms in the MENA region? And what are the concerns and the challenges of the IANA stewardship transition to ICANN?
Okay, we know that today, over the 2 decades, the internet has grown and thrived largely thanks to this multi-stakeholders model, which demonstrated that he's working well, and he was protecting the internet as a central driver of economic growth and innovation and free speech. That's why today, when we say that we will transit the IANA function to the ICANN, there is a belief that we are strengthening and protecting this model and preserving it. About the risk and the gains, the risk that we are facing is that we must be confident that changing the existing model will not be worse than the previous model. Because we know that everything is doing smoothly and without errors in the IANA function today, with the NTA oversight, with the NTA monitoring and verification and authorization, and we should not lose this good, well done work. About the gains, I think for the gains, we know that the IANA functions today are a small portion of small portion in the internet governance, and perhaps with this transition we will have another shape of internet governance, something new we will discover. We don't know.
A very nice perspective. So I will go back to Mr. Tijani and ask him, because Mr. Tijani was a soldier, if I should say, of like fighting for the success of the IANA transition to ICANN. So, what are the potential risks and challenges for the IANA stewardship transition to ICANN? Unmute yourself, Mr. Tijani.
Yes. Thank you very much, Hamza and all, for this question. I think that yes, there are risks, and I have said one time while we were discussing, because I am a member of the CCWG accountability. So when we were discussing this issue, and you know the interests are very diverse, and everyone is pulling toward what he wants to have. And at one time I said I do not want to remove the US government and replace him by the US companies. This is the risk, one of the most important risks, because you know the community will be the one to whom ICANN will be accountable, and the community is made of those different SOs and ACs. SOs and ACs, you have the GNSO, which is the generic names supporting organization, the CCNSO, the country code names supporting organization. You have also the ASO, which is the address supporting organization, and you have two advisory committees, which are the at-large advisory committee and users, and you have the governmental advisory committee, which is the GAC. So this is the community, if you want, and the transition will be done, if you want, the oversight, not the oversight. Let's say the accountability. The ICANN should be accountable to this community. Who in this community has the most power? Those are people who have money and time. And people who have money and time are people who have a big interest in the business of ICANN. Those are registry and registrars. And they have all the benefit to have the decisions on their side, in their benefit. So they may, and they have the possibility to put the necessary money and the necessary time to reach what they want. This is the big, in my point of view, the big risk. That's why in writing the accountability mechanisms, I was fighting toward making all the community having the same power, the same weight, all the community having the possibility to object and to agree or to object, etc. So this is one of the biggest, in my point of view, the biggest risk. I think that the transition will be of a big benefit for the community in general, because in the future we will have the possibility to tell the board no. We can tell them no, this budget is not okay. Before we didn't have this possibility. We can even remove them one by one, all together. So this is, I think, a very powerful tool that we have to make the board, if you want, to make the board meet the interest of the community.
Yes.
But this is not only the benefit of this transition. There is also, before we had. I want to say what Fahd said, and I agree with him. This transition, technically, it's a change of hands only, because ICANN did everything in IANA. ICANN operated IANA under a contract with the US government, and the US government didn't enter in the work of the IANA. Created something with transition, and in this transition IANA there is the three communities, the three operating communities, which are names, numbers, and protocols, don't have the same wish or the same will how to operate it. So we have the names have their way, and the two others have another way, and this is not a problem, because with the new system, each one we will have SLA with each of those communities, and the new IANA, if you want, or the PTI, will have to meet those SLAs. That's all. So, and I think that it will, because at the end, PTI is the department of IANA and ICANN now. Nothing will change in my point of view. Only administration, only new legally it is different. That's all. But I don't have any fear about the technical stability, security, and resiliency. Thank you. Hamza?
I would go
Hamza.
to the, yes, I'm hearing you, Mr. Jane. So I would go to Mrs. Wafa and ask you about the cross-community working group accountability proposal, approval of the IANA Stewardship Transition to ICANN. Can you elaborate more on the transparency and accountability process put forward by the CCWG? Can you unmute yourself, please?
I think Tijani has already asked somehow this question, because he was talking about this community who will have the power. We call it the empowered community. Tijani, he was involved in this process, and I think he can speak more about the process of the accountability and ICG group.
So we will hand it to Mr. Tijani to give us the accountability and transparency process put forward by the cross-community working group on the work stream, what we call work stream 1.
I think he has already spoke about that.
Yeah, can you give us like an overview of what are the
I think the most important thing is the establishment of the empowered community, which will select the member of ICANN boards, and they have to accept the operation plan, also the operating plans. There are some bylaws that will be changed of ICANN to make it more open and more transparent. for the accountability, we spoke that we can the operating and financial operating and financial plan of ICANN could be not accepted by this empowered community. But as I said, Citizen, you can speak more details about this.
Mr. Tijani, can you give us your thought on the issue of the work of the cross-community working group, and give us like in-depth perspective?
Okay, thank you. So the governance model chosen is the single or the sole designator model. What does that mean? That means that with in the California jurisdiction, an incorporated association or an incorporation should have members, and if not members, designators. ICANN was a special case where there was no members and no designators. Members means that they choose the board members, and they have all the fiduciary rights, so they can do everything. Members have more power than the board, since the board is their members. The designator have only one possibility, one right, which is to designate the board members. So we choose, after very long discussion, we decided that we will choose the sole designator model. Sole, why? Because we wanted to be on one designator, which is the whole community. At the beginning, they wanted each member of the community, or each SO and ACs become member or become designator, and we refused that because if we have each SO and ACs being member, they can even dissolve ICANN. They have this possibility. So we decided that the whole community speaks in one voice, and we will have a sole or a single designator, which is the community, the whole big community, the empowered community, as Wafa said. So this is the first point. The second point, the community have been given powers, 7 powers. One of them is to remove one single board member. The second is to remove the whole board members altogether. Another power is to refuse to object or to veto the budget and the operating plan. There are 2 or 3 other powers, but they are less important than those. All together are the way that the community will try to make the ICANN board accountable to the community. So,
very good.
What is the impact of that? The impact of that is that in the future the board is always has always the last word, the last say, but they cannot do everything they want, because with these new accountability mechanisms, everything we can object to almost everything. And for example, to change the bylaw, we divided the bylaw in 2 parts. We have the fundamental bylaw and the normal bylaw. To change the fundamental bylaw, the board cannot do it. We have to do it with them. We have to propose with them to change it. But to change the bylaw, the simple bylaw, they can propose, they can change the bylaw, and we have to agree afterward. You understand? So those are mechanisms of accountability that in the future we will have with the board, with the ICANN board. The accountability mechanisms are very important for the future of ICANN. I think we are drawing now the new landscape of ICANN and of Internet. Why? For the end users, it must be transparent if everything goes normally. Because I suppose that the board was working for the public interest, and in this case, Since we also, the community, we want it, we want it to be for the public interest, nothing will change. But if it is not the case, you will see things change. I will stop here and give the floor to the others if you want.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Tijani. I will give the floor to Mr. Fahd Bataina if he can hear us.
Yes, Hamza, I can.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question on how will ICANN manage the internet ecosystem to ensure its continued openness and independence from the reaction of the government there in the internet governance universe? So, what reaction are you expecting from the government, from the ITU, and how can ICANN manage its continued openness and independence from those structures?
Okay, so just to be clear on one thing, ICANN doesn't control everything on the internet. So ICANN's mandate on the internet is extremely limited. It's names, numbers, and protocol parameters. We work directly on domain names. When it comes to numbers and protocol parameters, there are other folks who are the regional internet registries and the IETF who are heavily involved in this work. So that's really ICANN's mandate. However, ICANN does support the multi-stakeholder model, and ICANN is a key advocate for the internet governance, and the Internet Governance Forum. We support the Internet Governance Forum as a global initiative or even as regional and local initiatives. So I don't think ICANN will have, let's say, I mean, it's not just ICANN who can let's say, tackle reactions of governments or any other entities when it comes to this whole internet ecosystem. You mentioned the ITU. Our relationship with the ITU recently has been extremely good. We have been working on many initiatives together. ICANN just opened an office in Geneva almost 2 years ago, so that we are closer to the government delegations who are based in Geneva, whether ITU or UN or UNCTAD or any of the other 30 or so UN bodies. We don't, I mean, our relationship with the ITU is good. Our relationship with all the other ISTA organizations is pretty good. We all understand that we have roles and responsibilities within this internet governance ecosystem. If we look at the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, we will see that actually one of the key topics to be tackled by governments in the next 16 years or so is the concept of the digital economy. And if you really look at this whole concept of the digital economy, we actually need a unified internet where everybody can access and actually conduct trade online. I think in 2014, the digital economy contributed to $300 trillion to the overall economy. So we all, I mean, looking at these numbers, having one internet is focal, and then of course having a secure, stable, and resilient internet is focal. Of course, ICANN has a large role in keeping the internet secure, stable, and resilient, and that's through the unique identifiers that I've explained earlier in this hangout. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great perspective, Mr. Fan. So I will turn it to Ms. Wafa and ask her the same question about can ICANN really manage the internet governance ecosystem, and what kind of relationship does ICANN entertain in the internet space with governments and other stakeholders there, mainly the ITU or other governments?
Okay, Hamza, as I said before, that the functions that is managing ICANN are a little portion in the internet governance. So as Fahd said, ICANN is not responsible for all the internet governance in the world. It's paramount, that's true, because the resilience and security of the internet and the openness of the internet is very important. But ICANN is not the only responsible. Sorry, I missed the second part of your question. You said the government.
In light of the transition, the IANA transition to ICANN, what reaction are you expecting from the government agencies or intergovernment organizations or governments in general? Like I don't know, there's like like China there, the BRICS, and all of those countries that have maybe different interpretation of what is the internet, and the ITU as well as a transgovernmental agency.
Yes, we all know that the transition is going away from the US oversight. But that's true that the empowered community is US industry held, and we think that it's a concern for the governments today because the other countries like China or Europe want to have their business also in the registrar's model for the GTLDs. Today, the government have still some power in the community, but not like before. The advice were taken automatically by the board. Today, there's a vote for any advice of the coming from the GAG to be taken in consideration. But like what said Fahad, that ICANN today have a good relationship. I don't know, it's a good or a better relationship with the ITU, where the government are there speaking about telecom problems and internet problems. I don't really know in the future with the translation what would be really the weight of the government, but there's still now there's some concerns about this issue, and I really don't have the perfect answer for this issue.
You can see an unresolved issue and unanswered question.
Yes, because it's all about industry, domain name industry. It's
Good.
all about business.
So I would ask this question to ask the same question to Mr. Tijani, and what is your opinion on the fact, like, if ICANN can manage the internet ecosystem in light of the reactions of other governments like China, like the BRICS, is ICANN competent enough to do the job?
I think so. I think that the relationship of ICANN with governments since the arrival of Fadi Shahadi has been enhanced very significantly. Today we don't have really enemies among governments. There are always issues. There is I want to remind you that there was a petition from I think it was 12 or 13 governments against the carve-out, something that we created in the accountability mechanisms to prevent the governments to be a decision party for some cases, for very few cases. And but I think that at the end, the GAC, the Governmental Advisory Committee, approved the final draft. So I think that there is not a very big problem with the governments. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the governments was an issue in my point of view. I know that some people inside our group try to make it a very big issue and try to explain that the governments will have more power. This is because the U.S. government said when he proposed the transition that they didn't want to see another government or an intergovernmental organization take their place. They wanted to be transition to the community and not to a government. So and that's why some people in our group try to say every time that, oh, this is will give more power to the governments. I don't think that anything will give any more power to the governments. Governments are part of the community. They don't have more. They don't have to have more power, but they don't have to have less power. I think it is okay now. We reached more or less how to say, a balance, and there is no problem with the GAC, with the governments in ICANN. Now, outside ICANN, of course, I think that the antagonism will continue to exist. but under other faces and other ways or other forms, if you want. I think that it depends on how things will go. If at the end we will have the community driven by the I don't, but it by the industry or captured by any party, there will be problems. And I hope there will not, because the most important thing is that ICANN is unique, you know that, and the force of ICANN is that it is unique. The unique identifiers are the force, the power of the internet. If we didn't have unique identifiers, we cannot have an internet for everyone, a global internet.
Yeah, so we'll have many internets like handled by different governments. So
Yeah.
and that's raise the potential for conflict.
Exactly.
Many networks. You mean many networks?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is great. Fantastic. So I think we reached the final question, or I still have another question for you, but the final question says that, and I want to ask Mr. Fahbatain about the human rights consideration of ICANN in its policy process. As an ICANN as a private California corporation, does ICANN have a duty to protect human rights?
Okay, thank you, Hamza. So yes, indeed. So I can hear myself actually. Okay. Anyway, let's try this. So actually, one of the duties ICANN works on, yes, is human rights at the moment, and all of us know that when it comes to registering domain names, there is this database called Whois, and Whois actually has contact information of owners of domain names. Now that does have an angle when it comes to human rights, especially domain names that actually infringe on issues online. So for example, selling illegal drugs, human trafficking, child pornography. These are issues that actually intersect are intersecting points between domain names and ICANN's work. Recently, there has been a huge push from the community to actually include human rights work in ICANN's bylaws. So mentioning issues related to human rights explicitly in the bylaws, and actually the community is working hard on that. We actually have a civil society engagement team dedicated to touching on different aspects of civil society advocacy, such as human rights, digital rights, end user rights. I mean, all the other rights that probably you know better than I do. So yes, there is a new angle for human rights, and actually, it's also worth mentioning here that also within the Internet Engineering Task Force, the IETF, which is a pure technical place. After the Snowden revelation, they actually created a working group to look at protocols and human rights. And actually, one of the gentlemen who works on that working group is actually a human rights advocate. So yes, human rights is getting more into this internet ecosystem. It's touching on more aspects of the internet ecosystem. It's touching even more on aspects related to names, numbers, and protocol parameters. One thing also worth mentioning is that ICANN has always been looking at the end user perspective. So within ICANN, we have the at-large advisory committee, which Tijani can talk more about, and I'm sure Tijani has more experience than I do when it comes to the work of the ALAC. So ALAC is really in charge of end users perspective when it comes to names, numbers, and protocol parameters. And of course, human rights is another angle. So yes, I mean, in summary, and in response to your question, human rights is getting more integrated into ICANN, and it's getting even more demanding for ICANN from the community that let's include all this human rights work into ICANN's bylaws. Thank you.
Yes.
So the human rights is in the remit of ICANN, right?
Yes. Can I add something about the human rights?
Yeah, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, thank you. To continue what Fahd has said, in the proposal of the CCWG accountability, they included a recommendation. We all know they included a recommendation to incorporate into ICANN bylaws and then define support to internationally recognition of human rights. But we know that this implementation was differed under the work stream too. We don't know how will this implementation will take place, but we are sure that the fact that the recommendation was recommended, and we know that in the
Was put forward.
what was put forward, and there is a big support through the community of the ICANN of this incorporation of human rights in the bylaws of ICANN.
And in World War II, right? In World War II.
Yes, and no, I'm speaking about the supporting. It's different, and we don't know what will be done in the under the work stream too, but there is a big support through the community of ICANN, part of the community of ICANN, and we think that this implementation is very likely to happen. That's what I wanted to add.
So I want to hear from Mr. Tijani, who has been active in the outlier structure in ICANN, and the mandate of ICANN vis-a-vis civil society as a structure within the ICANN multi-stakeholder model.
Thank you, Hamza. I am from the at-large. I am civil society, and I am member of the CWG accountability. So first, before anything, I have to tell you that ICANN is about names and numbers. It is not about content at all. And this is clear in the mission of ICANN. So I want it to be clear that any human right impact on the ICANN work should be related to names and numbers only, to its mission. That's why I didn't agree with people who said, yes, human rights, yes. Oh no, this country is against human rights, so we to give them TRDs or something like this. This is not our mission. We are selling the car, and we don't know what will be inside the car. We don't have to know. We don't want to know what will be inside the car when it is sold. So our mission is names and numbers. And in the names and numbers, we have a lot of issues of human rights, for sure. We have the privacy, especially the WHOIS. I don't know if you want me to explain the acronyms. The WHOIS is the database of the registrants in general, and also the database, especially of the registrants, also of the registries. But we have a big problem of privacy, and we're still working on. There is a lot of work done, and there is now going on working groups about this. So this is one aspect of human rights. There are others, but we have to be clear that when someone come and say freedom of expression is not part of the work of ICANN. It's about names and numbers. If it is about domain names, if it is about IP addresses, yes, it is our work. But if it is about the content, the website, not our work. It is the cuts in the different countries. So in the work stream, we have rights, but we can say what can it be before we define the how we call it, the if you want, the field of application of the human rights for ICANN, what I call you now. So now we in the work stream 2, first we will define the field, the scope, and then we will write the bylaw about the human rights.
Very good perspective, Mr. Tijani. So Yeah. I
Just to
have a
react.
final.
Yes, just to react to what Mr. Tijani said. We know that
In 1
yes.
minute.
1 minute, 1 minute. For the human rights, we are the data in subject of it is the information of the domain name. As said, Fahad, you have the contact, the address. There's some privacy in this the domain names, and we have to preserve that. About the freedom, you know, that's a fear in this transition that this will impact will limit the GTLDs. Which is constantly constant with the openness of the internet. We fear that we will have some restriction on the TLDs, and that is one of the fear that was raised on in this transition. That's what I wanted to say.
Yes, a very good perspective. You counter a little bit of Mr. Tijani. So I have like a final question for all of you. Like you can take 1 minute and to imagine with me what kind of decentralized aspect of the internet you imagine like 30, 50, 100 years from now. So what kind of decentralized model the internet can take and what is that decentralized form? If we can ask Mr. Fahad Bataina.
Okay, thank you, Hamza. So I mean, my 2 cents on this is that I don't think the internet will get any decentralized. I mean, I sometimes look at the telephone system. So the telephone system has been around for, I think, more than 100 years. It has been a very successful and useful system for communication. However, today we rely more on mobile phones than on the regular classical telephone system. And of course, then we have the internet where rather than going through telephone lines, it's actually going as voice over IP addresses, which is called voice over IP. So I really don't have concerns about the internet getting decentralized. And I frankly think that the internet actually will remain and will be a strong platform for better economic growth for humanity. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we will remain at our jobs because the internet will be there. So, Mr. Tijani, what kind of decentralized form you see the internet will be taking in the future? So give us your perspective on, or imagine with us that decentralization form of the internet in the future. And mute yourself.
Already done. Thank you very much, Hamza. Decentralized, I think that
again,
as I said, Hamza, I don't think that the internet will change. What internet is expanding. And but I don't think that the transition will make it more decentralized, or I don't think there will be a lot of change for the end user. It will be a change in the management of ICANN, but not for the end users. Because even now, the end user and any to challenge ICANN, continue to be like this, and it will be enhanced. We put other mechanisms of if you want review, independent review, or and also other ways of enforcement of any ruling. So I don't think that for the user it will change. It will be as it is now, but for the management of ICANN, it will change. Coming back to what I said, I see how the new GTLD are limited or are restricted. I don't understand the issue. I think that, at the contrary, we are going toward more.
I didn't say that. The transition. Some concerns were raised that the GTLDs with this transition, the GTLDs could be restricted or limited. It was a thought that upon the announcement of NTA to transit to to transition the IANA functions.
I can confirm that it cannot happen.
It was a fear. I know it can't happen today, but it was a fear before.
I don't know. I don't know.
I like the bilateral discussions between. It's very intense.
Yes, it was a fear. As I say, Tijani, it was a fear.
So, Mr. Tijani, if you can like answer Mr. Wafa on the point, and then add like in 30 minutes the decentralized form that the internet you see can be taken in the future.
Repeat the question, Hamza.
So if you can answer the concerns of Ms. Wafa, and then continue.
Okay, I will tell you that nothing will. There is no. I don't know the origin of this fear because there is no mean to restrict the new GTLDs. Even what was before the advice of the GAC that are more or less compulsory for the board. Now it is. We made other mechanisms to make it less relevant. So it will not be any restriction. Of course, when there is a GTLD which is for the community, which is the name of the community, if the brand, if the company wants to take it, it's normal that the community will get it better than the company. That's normal. But this is what is happening now, and what will continue to happen. I don't see any restriction that can be made on the new GTLDs.
Very, very good perspective, Mr. Tijani. Thank you very much. And I will ask Mrs. Wafa, who is an internet advocate, not only working for the ATI. What kind of decentralized form of the internet you see in the future that can guarantee the human rights for the end user in our region, in the MENA region? In 30 seconds.
Yes, 30 seconds. You know, Hamza, today we went from a US oversight to a US-based industry. We know that this empowered community, the industry is preserved through it. So, did we really go to end this decentralized internet? Today I do not have the answer because this process is not implemented yet to see how it's functioning. But I think the step taken is a positive one. We have to see the next steps and to have a look what will happen, how it will be implemented, and try to preserve our internet as open, as resilient, and as transparent as possible.
Yeah, I think that's it. Well, thank you very much for joining our fantastic debate. I should say, I think I feel very empowered and honored to have heard all of your perspectives. I think you are my teachers, if I can say, in the internet governance world, and I hope that we will keep fighting together to guarantee a more transparent, resilient, and interoperable internet. So not only as a form of commerce, but as well as a place where online human rights can be guaranteed. And thank you for Mr. Fahd Bataina and Mr. Tijani and Mrs. Wafa Dahmani, who came and joined us with their great ideas. And I hope that I will keep learning from the topic today. And I hope that we will meet in upcoming events and conferences. So thank you very much for joining us, and we're really proud to have you with us.
Thank you, Hamza, for organizing this interesting hangout and inviting interesting people like Tijani and Mr. Fahd.
Yeah, so those people are the role models of the internet governance.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hamza, and thank you all. It was a pleasure being with you.
Thank you, Tijani.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for that.